Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Swokowski, and welcome to the Ryan Swo podcast. Today, we have two very special guests. Today with me, we have Pastor Jonathan Freese from Music Life Church, Appleton. How you doing, Pastor Jonathan?
Excellent. Thanks for having us, Pastor Ryan.
I am so glad you're here today. And also, we have Pastor Joel Swokowski from Music Life Church, Kimberly. How are you doing today, Pastor Joel?
I'm great. Thanks for having us.
I am very excited to do this with you guys today. And today, we're here to talk about season 3 of the What the Flock and Music Life Church podcast, specifically episodes 11 and 12, the Profitability and Reward episodes. Great episodes, guys. I learned so much. I've learned also the damage that I have on those topics too. So you guys helped me out so much personally. So thank you.
Awesome.
And I know you guys help everybody else out so much with these too. So we're going to jump right into it. So the point of these podcasts is to help people like myself with church damage. So what kind of damage do you guys have specifically around these two topics? So either one of you, go.
Yeah, I think my damage is closely related to what I think like the general damages in these areas with just being brought up in this in the culture of Christianity of everything's just about salvation. And everything's about jumping over. Now, I see salvation as this hurdle that starts the process of us living this life with God. But I was brought up in that you jump over this hurdle and you're good. And there really wasn't any discussion about reward. There wasn't really any discussion about how do we measure the progress we're making as a Christian. It was just jump over this hurdle, you're good. So what's interesting, a lot of times I think people don't even recognize the damage they have until they start learning these things and honestly, these are some of these topics, especially the profitability episode is one of these topics where me and Pastor Jonathan are actually introducing a topic that a lot of people have never even heard before.
Yeah.
And I think that there's times where through us teaching, we're giving people clarity over the damage they didn't even know they had. Yeah. So I would say, I don't know, I can't give you like a specific experience or example of like, oh yeah, I was damaged in this area of profitability.
Sure.
I think a lot of people have that, but for me, I think it was just the general, like the damage of never being taught this, being told I'm a Christian, but never being told how to grow in it, and just really having the concepts of salvation and reward all just Pastor Jonathan shared with me once. It's like a bowl of spaghetti. It's like it's all tangled up together. You don't know where it starts, where it ends. It's just kind of it's a confused mess.
Yes, for sure. I think you nailed it. It was like these kind of new topics or new categories of church damage that people are discovering that were deep down. They're like, oh yeah, I do have that damage. So
yeah.
Benefits of listening to your guys' podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
How about you, Pastor Jonathan?
It's a cool question. I think very much related to what Pastor Joel was saying in terms of profitability. Profitability means, not generally not doing things. If you're profitable, you're not sinning, you're not smoking, you're not drinking, you're not sinning. That's how you're profitable in a sense. That's our role as Christians, is to do a list of things not to do. And then the list of what to do is very abstract. Pray, read your Bible, go to church. And that's how you're profitable. And it really is, one of the damages that I've experienced is being, everyone's so unique. So it's really hard for people to feel like there's a place for them in church if they don't have some sort of, gift of music or gift of being a pastor, or, you want to preach or you want to serve. And I feel like there's been a lot of damage that, I've experienced with just profitability means falling in line and doing what the pastor kind of tells you to do.
Yeah.
And if you question, then you're not being profitable, or you're not behaving well. So that and then the same thing is true with the reward idea. What's your reward? Your reward's Jesus. It gets lumped. So that concept to do things to gain something, like Pastor Joel, I think, nailed it. Like, that's not talked about a lot. Or what's kind of talked about is you're just such a piece of garbage that Jesus died for your sins, and you should just be grateful because of that. And there's not a lot of going forward. So yeah, that's kind of been my damage.
Yeah.
Trying to find my role and my place, and not really feeling like I have a good direction on how to go forward towards God and be who He wants me to be specifically. So
yeah. Awesome. It's a great answer. And yeah, it can be like, right, it's like on this limitation strict side of like, don't do this, don't do this. This is how you're profitable, by doing all these don'ts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard to feel good about things in our lives. And that actually leads into my next question is, like, as someone who has damage around these topics personally, being reminded in the past of like how much of a sinner I am, how awful my flesh is, it can be hard to feel good about stuff. So how do you guys handle being affirmed? So let's say if somebody said, hey, Pastor Jonathan, great sermon today. How do you want to handle that? Or how would you tell other people to handle that?
Wow, that's a cool question. Okay, so how I would tell other people to handle it is, if someone affirms you, says good job, great sermon, whatever, receive it. First and foremost, receive what that person's saying. So you say, thank you.
Yeah.
Not, oh, I can't take any credit, God did it. No. Because if you're doing that, you're just like pushing away what it is that they're saying to you. If someone's trying to connect with you and give you a gift, and there is always a risk, myself included, walking up to someone saying, hey man, I really thought this was great.
Yeah.
There's a risk, and you're trying to like present a gift. You're trying to give a value to that person. You're trying to share with them. You're trying to connect with them. So what I share with people and what I try to do is, the first thing is say thank you. And then the second thing I want to do is I want to have some sort of conversation around what it is that they liked about it. I want to try to get some more specifics if I can. Not so my ego gets stroked.
Sure.
Oh, really? What was it about it that you liked? You know?
Right. Sure.
But it's that same question.
Yeah.
You know, if someone goes, great sermon, I could say, thank you. Yeah. What did you like about it? Was there something that connected with you? I'd love to know what connected with you. I'd love to hear about what you liked. So that's because again, I want to build that connection.
That's great.
With someone. And it's such a good way to build a connection with someone. You do something, they come up to you, what a gift. And they're going to kind of initiate a personal one-on-one connection. Oh, I don't want to lose that opportunity with anyone. You just say, thanks, thanks, have a great day. It's like, no. Sure. What was it?
For sure. And that is risky for them to come up and actually affirm you in that one. And like, the first response that a lot of people get is this almost negation of it. It's like, oh, I just maybe negated their way to love me. So
it sounds really good to say it. No, it's God.
Right.
As a first step. But yeah, that's a good point, Pastor Ryan.
Yeah. How about you, Pastor Joel?
Well, I agree with Pastor Jonathan. That's a great answer. I think it's a good way to actually boost your own self-esteem, is to learn how to receive a compliment. And I think a lot of times we do spend a lot of time trying to handle really adverse, intense conflicts coming at us well.
Yeah.
It's just as important to learn how to handle success and doing good behaviors well as well. We need to be good losers and we need to be good winners.
Nice.
And So I'll go the other way and kind of commentate more on what advice I would give to somebody who is complimenting or who is affirming. So if I was to go to Pastor Jonathan, or if I was helping somebody, you want to affirm Pastor Jonathan and preaching a sermon. We like to teach people to try to affirm someone for a cause. And that's really the thing that Pastor Jonathan is wanting to connect with. Oh, like, what did you like about it is a more personal, social way of getting to that, where I'm the more teacher, technical guy, where what's the cause behind the affirmation? Like, no, it's like, but the point is like, affirm for a cause. And what that really is why did you like this? And whatever that why is ought to be a cause.
Yeah.
There's a benefit in that, especially when you're affirming somebody. If you affirm them for a cause, then you're giving them something that is in their control and would be profitable for them to focus on. If I said, Pastor Jonathan, and I really liked that sermon because your flowing hair looked really beautiful during it. It's like, well, thanks. Yeah. Right. But it's like, but that's not so now what's Pastor Jonathan supposed to do? And if Pastor Jonathan doesn't have a high self-esteem, he might be distracted now and have, you know what, the way that I can feel good and the way people are going to like me is if my hair looks nice.
Yeah.
There's something about appearance, or maybe because I was really funny or something like this. But it's like, if I affirm him for a cause, it like something like, you know, I really think your sermon reached people at a deeper level at their uniqueness. You were able to tell this story that transcended uniqueness that everybody was able to relate to.
Oh,
like
great.
That's something now Pastor Jonathan can, oh, thank you. That was good. Yeah. And now I can take that cause you gave me. That's something that would be good for me to focus on, to continue to grow as a storyteller. And so that's where it's like, for me, it's such a great move to just say thank you when somebody compliments you or affirms you. And if you're going to do it to somebody else, go the extra mile and don't just say great sermon, say great sermon because of fill in the blank.
That's great. That's great. And really, it sounds like it's the cause of focusing on something intangible within the sermon, you know.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
No, as opposed to like maybe the production of it or potentially the props, flowing hair, you know, something that me and Pastor Joel will probably never be affirmed in, and flowing. Yeah,
probably
someday. Who knows?
Yeah. Well,
I want to be open to it.
Yeah. One of the things about also, like, when you are affirming someone or something, one of the things to sit back and think is, if that person were to receive the affirmation or the compliment or the encouragement that I was giving, would I want them to do that more?
Right. Yeah.
That's one way to look at it, where it's like, if I affirmed you in your props or in your, you know, then what's going to happen is you might start getting more and more ridiculous props.
Sure.
So it's like, that is, it's a great way to look at what's the mental, emotional, or spiritual thing to affirm. That's a great point, Ryan.
You bet. So that actually leads to my next question was, Pastor Jonathan, what's it like to have long flowing hair? Oh no, that's not my next question. We'll talk about that later. So, I'm not jealous. Okay.
Clearly, Pastor Ryan and I talk about your long flowing hair.
We do.
Behind the scenes all the time.
All the time. Yeah. That's how we connect. So
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what's this?
That bell is awesome.
That's a
Speaking
prop.
of props.
Yeah.
It is our weekly segment that we do here at the Ryan Swope Podcast. This is when I answer a letter from one of my listeners who, still write me letters.
Oh, I love it.
So, who is it today? Ooh, this is Jackie Smith from Hoboken, New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
I have like a really big East Coast following. It's really weird. Really big out east. So, here we go. Dear Ryan, hey, love the show. Long time listener. Man, thank you. I have a question for the PJs and a separate question for Pastor Joel. First, as a fan of the What the Flock and Music Life Church podcasts, I would like to know, which podcast do you guys get the most energy from and why? And for Pastor Joel, separate question, are you still single? Thank you. Thank you, Jackie Smith. We'll send you a
Jackie.
gift and maybe a t-shirt in the mail. So,
and a Pastor Joel calendar.
Yeah, Pastor Joel calendar. So
watch out for July.
You got
those are the hot seasons.
The swimsuit weather.
That's right. Swimsuit weather.
Oh man.
Yeah. Great question, Jackie. So yeah, Pastor Jonathan. Yeah. Between the
I'll
two.
start.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, my favorite between the two is the Music of Life Church podcast. I feel like I get to do a lot more teaching in the Music of Life Church podcast. And I think both Pastor Joel and I are really happy about this, but are to do this, which is leadership training. It's one thing to help someone who's been hurt by church. It's another thing to help someone else. Like that's when all of this pastor stuff just makes me jacked.
Yeah.
Is when I'm helping someone who's helping someone else. Because it builds that connection between the person that I'm talking to and we have a project together. And you know, the greatest projects you could say are helping people. So I feel like in the Music of Life Church podcast, it is such a deep and important direction that we're heading.
Yeah.
And it's actually more, I think, more in line with what Jesus was wanting us to do in the first place, like in terms of making disciples. It's a very discipleship focused podcast, but I love it because I talk a lot more.
Sure.
I get to go, hey, Pastor Joel, it's just pure improv.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to talk about when we start. We have like a really rough structure, and then it's really just, okay, let's just see where it takes us. And it feels so much like a conversation. Pastor Joel and I are going to do this regardless of if we have a podcast or not. But it is so much like how we hang out with each other and how we interact and what it would sound like if you were in the room as we interacted and as we talked about certain topics, or if him and I were working together to help someone else. So that it's absolutely my favorite podcast out of the two.
Great. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Pastor Jonathan. Pastor Joel.
Yeah, same. But this is tough. So honestly, maybe because I get to talk a lot and teach a lot in both of them, they're very different. And if I'm gonna rate them, we're talking like what's my favorite between the two. You're talking like name your favorite two plates of food. Just because one's better than the other doesn't mean the other doesn't beat every other plate of food that exists. So
sure.
So I want to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
So with me in particular, with who I am and how God works through me, I have really defined two different styles of teaching that I like to do. And I call one instructing and I call one commentating.
Nice.
And in general, I just want to teach people doctrine, especially leaders. How I do that is either through instructing or through commentating. Instructing is more like classroom setting. It would be more like a sermon, something that's prepared ahead of time, very much like the What the Flock podcast. We know there still is a lot of movement and us being genuine. We're not just reading off of a script, but there is a lot of notes and lines that have to be done. And there are points within the podcast that I am, or Jonathan is, just reading because we have to get a definition right. But I love that.
Yeah.
It's like the classroom. You know, it's like, give me the whiteboard and let me instruct you, and we're going to teach this thing, and it's going to be taught a certain way.
Yeah.
That is instructing to me. Commentating is more of this improv. I don't really know I know the topic we're going to talk about, but I don't know where it's going to go. And that's the commentating is more of this style of teaching of like, just conversational in the moment. It's just what I'm going to do naturally with Pastor Jonathan anyways. And that's the Mulk podcast for me. I think the Mulk podcast I enjoy more because it is more just purely like me and Pastor Jonathan hanging out. There is this higher level of tension of not really knowing what to expect. Yeah. Because now from my point of view, during the What the Flock podcast, periodically I'll see Pastor Jonathan jotting notes down while we're going.
Nice.
And a lot of times that's him writing notes for what we want to talk about at the Mulk podcast. I have no clue what he's writing.
Sure.
So we don't know what's going to happen. I definitely don't know what's going to happen because he just kind of takes whatever he's feeling led to, or, you know, inspired to discuss at a deeper level from the What the Flock podcast. And it's like, that's the talking points. Yeah. So I feel like the higher level of tension leads to the higher level of reward, and the the positive emotions that come with improv. It's more challenging, but with, you know, as it often is when you rise to a challenge, all those pleasure chemicals are also increased as well. And plus, again, it's like hanging out with my friend. This is one of the reasons we started this podcast in the first place, is because this is the stuff we talk about and how we interact with each other naturally anyways. So it's like, why not just get a microphone, make it a little bit more structured, and then share it with the world. So I think, awesome. Mulk podcast, but what the Flock is like, it's a photo finish. It really is.
Sure. Yeah. And it's cool to see you guys like within your uniquenesses within these different podcasts too. So like Jonathan seeming like he's very much the setup guy to set you up in the What the Flock podcast, and then he gets to kind of, all right, now it's my turn to commentate and teach stuff.
Totally.
So it's really cool to kind of see how you guys like riff back and forth, and how you can adjust with each other too. And it shows the experience you guys have just as being friends too for so long. So it's really cool to see you guys shine that. So yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, man.
Oh yeah. And I'm still single.
Oh, there we go. Yes. Most of still single, ladies. Look out for that calendar. So
nice.
Awesome. Pastor Joel, I believe in one of the podcasts, you were stated as saying in the, I believe it was the episode 11 podcast, the profitability one, we are all unique. So what's profitable to you may be different than what's profitable to me. So I want to ask you guys, what is profitable to you guys specifically?
Well, I'm teaching.
Yeah.
That is a big thing. That is like, I'm one of these people who, what you see is what you get. A lot of what's coming outside of me is represented from what's inside of me. I want people to understand more about who God is, how he works, and how our individual lives and corporate lives play into that. And I want to be the one to explain that to you as well. So a lot of that's really that is the pure and simple answer for me. It is profitable for me to teach other people.
Awesome. Thank you. And Pastor Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's an easy answer is showing compassion.
Yeah.
Caring for people. And serving people. And I think that is very much in line with being a pastor.
Yeah.
I don't think caring for people, and if I care for people the right way, I don't get burnt out. It's got to be the right people the right way.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not burnt out. I get more energy over time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's profitable for me. I think another thing that's profitable for me is making music.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
that's good. Yeah.
Like like it's tangibly profitable for me as well.
Sure.
And it benefits a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Pastor Joel, thank you for wearing that t-shirt.
Yes.
Ooh, nice.
Adama music.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but Adama,
Nice.
The band that I play drums and sing in and write for, has the doors are kind of being open for more musical opportunities for us, and it's a way for us to connect with more people.
Yeah.
Like for our community to get to meet other people and get to have an experience together. And it's profitable. People get energy from going to these experiences.
For sure.
And I get energy writing music that both for church and outside of church.
Yeah.
So yeah, tangibly, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I feel like music's a big one and pastoring's a big one for me.
Oh, that's awesome. And I've certainly seen it from both sides as far as like Pastor Joel and his ability to teach so well, taught me so many things. So thank you. And also Pastor Jonathan, the compassion that you've shown me as well. Thank you so much. And your band's music is, so please check them out. The name so I think they have a Facebook page and stuff. So they have great shows. And I get a lot of energy there too. So awesome. You got it. So
thank you.
You bet. Are you guys ready to play a game? We games at the Ryan Spoke podcast. So the game we're going to play today is called Scenarios Game. So
that's got a nice ring to it.
Thank you. I just have the name game at the end of whatever we're going to play.
Very poetic.
Very on the nose.
It has something to do with scenarios.
It does. You bet.
All right.
You got it, Pastor Joel. You win. Good job. Okay, here we go. So in this hat, I have a scenario. I'm going to read it and then ask one of you guys and see how you would respond to one of these scenarios. So,
all right,
Pastor Jonathan, you're going to be up first. Okay.
Okay.
Which one should I pick?
Pick the good one.
Oh, there it is.
I'm sitting here. Pick the easy one.
Okay. Here we go. So, Pastor Jonathan, you're at a coffee shop and you start chatting it up with an elder lady as you wait for your drinks to be made. She brings up church and you bring up church and you're connected. Then she mentions how she loves to help her church, and that she serves food for her church and she serves food for underprivileged people. You then say, wow, that's amazing. You serve people that way. You will be rewarded for that someday. She then says, rewarded? I'm not a part of a works-based religion. I'm not sure what church you go to and what you've learned. Pastor Jonathan, how do you respond?
Wow, what a specific scenario.
Man.
And it fits the podcast that we're talking about today.
That's weird. That's weird. I got my producers. Thank you guys. They come up with a lot of those.
What a team.
Yeah.
So she says to me, you're part of a WorkSpace Church.
Yep.
And what do I say to that? I think I would ask her questions. What does she mean by that?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean by a WorkSpace Church? I'd want to understand her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big answer.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean?
Sure.
And depending on how she answered, I think that would determine how I would go forward.
Yeah.
With the conversation. Because if she does answer that question, like immediately I can feel in the conversation that she's pushing back. And she said to me, you are a part of a works-based church. So right there, that was a judgment.
Mm.
That was a projection, and that was a judgment.
Yep.
That is abuse.
Yeah.
She immediately judged, like if I did say to her, you're going to get rewarded because of that. Yeah, that might be a fact, but she could feel like I said to her, I made a statement on her, or I judged her. So that's what I would do, is I would go into that conversation and I would say, whoa, okay, what do you mean by a works-based church? What is your experience with works-based churches in the past?
Yeah.
And then honestly, then I'm going to stop right there.
Nice.
That's what I would ask her. Just questions, and then keep going to understand her.
That's great. Great first step. That's awesome. First step to understand. Can't go wrong there. So, and maybe she's been waiting a lot longer for her coffee to be made than most people do. So who knows?
She's frustrated.
She might be frustrated.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Thank you, Pastor Jonathan. Great answer. So, all right, Pastor Joel, you're up next. All righty. Ooh, this is a good one. Great job, guys. This is great. Well, Pastor Joel, you're at a church conference with 100 other church leaders, and you're teaching about God's nature, who God is, and that God wants to be known. At one point during your teaching, you mentioned that God is complete and God can't grow. When you are finished, the pastor walks up to you and says, "You're wrong. You're putting God in a box. Of course, God can grow. He can do anything." Pastor Joel, how do you respond?
Well, first, hold on a minute while I get my bearings. Imagining being at a church conference where I'm teaching in front of hundreds of churches. Dream scenario, right?
With long wavy hair.
Yeah. Hopefully. If I want to be affirmed anyway.
Yeah, there we go. That's good.
So, I mean, honestly, I feel like it's similar to Pastor Jonathan's, but this person's coming after me, not even sharing on themselves and just telling me I'm wrong. First move, not trying to understand me. Now, it's always a benefit to take a step back, regardless of the scenario. When you're having an interaction with someone, everyone wants to be understood. I learned this from a sermon you preached, Pastor Ryan. Everyone wants to be understood. A leader has the ability to put that desire aside and first try to understand the people they're interacting with. So that's really could be the first step in any scenario that you pose to me and Pastor Jonathan. If I take a step back and try to understand the other person. So I could ask him, I'm like, can you explain to me how I'm wrong? But the unfortunate part of the scenario is this guy just came in guns blazing, not trying to understand me at all. And I would likely just respond by saying, "I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope in the future, if you teach somebody and somebody comes up to you and just blatantly says you're wrong, without asking you any questions, that you'd be okay with it."
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be great. Yeah. That would be what a tense interaction, but thank you so much. The step one, understand, backward step. So that's great. Awesome. Thank you guys for playing Scenarios Game. The Scenarios Game is sponsored by Adam. Awesome band. Go see him. Great. So,
for the residuals to come.
Right.
That's how I got on this podcast. As I
right. This is
I
great.
paid Ryan to be on the podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. So I know you guys got to get going here. I know you guys are busy. So, little quick sales pitch. We'll start with you, Pastor Jonathan. Why should people listen to the Profitability and Reward episodes?
Quick pitch.
Yep.
When you find no motivation to help someone, when you're not excited to do something, you can always look back on profitability and reward and find motivation to do it eternally.
Ooh, that's so good. That's really good. Pastor Joel.
If you're confused or stagnant about the progress you're making in life, these podcasts will give you the answers as far as how to measure progress. And also, if you're dealing with the conflict or the contradiction of people telling you you need to be selfless, while also feeling this innate desire to improve your own life, the Reward podcast specifically talks about the difference between what's good to focus on for ourselves and what's good to focus on for the benefit of others, and how do those things work together.
Yeah. Awesome. It's been great, guys. Thank you so much for your answers. Thank you so much to my guests today, Pastor Jonathan Fraze and Pastor Joel Swokowski. Thank you for being on my show. I had a lot of fun. I'd love to do this again. So,
thanks
for having
Ryan.
us. This is great.
You bet. And remember, if you've been hurt by church, they're there for you.
All right. See you later.
See ya.